Howdy, and welcome to episode 114 of In the Rabbit Hole's Urban Survival Podcast. In this episode, we're joined once more by the lovely and talented Miss Alana Barfield, who gets buck naked and survives 21 days in the wilderness. We're your hosts, Aaron
and Jason.
And you are in the rabbit hole, safe and sound. Some quick housekeeping before we dive into this episode. First, this is the season 3 finale. And as you know, that means we'll be off on our own adventures for the next few months. But fear not, we will be back September 8th, 2014. Second, just know that we do have some really big plans for next season. For starters, we'll be releasing a lot of prep and gear review videos. We've even been developing a whole series of videos for just getting started and for those looking to really take their preps to the next levels. We're really excited about that and looking forward to sharing all of that with you guys. And third, we've gotten a lot of feedback from the interviews we've done this season. One in particular got people really thinking, the one with James Price from Death Valley Magazine. And it left many people with a lot of questions. But worry not. We'll be covering those episode 1 of season 4 when we come back September 8th. And now, Alana Barfield on the truth about surviving naked on a deserted island for 21 days. Okay, we actually have a very special guest. I know we always have a very special guest.
Yeah, but this one's real special. This
one is really special, and she's naked. You don't get to see that today because we're on audio. But trust us to make this a family friendly show. We are wearing special glasses that have a little midsection blurred out to make up for the fact that the lovely and talented Miss Alana Barfield from Naked and Afraid is here in the studio. But I'm a little disappointed you are actually fully clothed. In all honesty, but the dog is naked, so. He is a huge fan of yours. So we alluded to the last time we had you on that we had something exciting and something mysterious to share with the audience, and that is that you were recently on Naked and Afraid, which will air Sunday at 8 p.m. Central Time?
9 p.m. They moved it back so they weren't competing with The Walking Dead anymore.
Well, that's probably smart because while I adore you, we are good friends, I would watch The Walking Dead first.
I probably would too.
And for anybody listening that's used to the audio sounding a little differently, we're in the process of getting ready to move the studio, so we've taken down a lot of the sound blankets that were all over the walls that help deaden it. So you're going to hear a little bit of an echo and the audio is going to be a little different than it normally would. But anyway, welcome back to the studio, In the Rabbit Hole studio. Naked dog and all. Right. So tell us, what was it like?
It was a lot harder than I expected. And for all those people that have their little conspiracy theories and think that people go to trailers at the end of the days and they get help from the crew and all that, I can honestly say that not only is the show very real and it really holds true to the integrity of the original idea, that the crew not only does not help you, that half the time they're getting in the way and they're a pain in the ass. So it's even harder than if you were just out doing stuff on your own. You have to step around these people and they're in the way and they're making noise and scaring off animals, and it's not all it's cracked up to be.
Wow. So let's back up for a second. How did you get on the show?
I got on the show kind of by a whim. I didn't even know about the show. Wasn't aware of it during the first season. And then I just kind of randomly heard about it and checked it on TV. And I was intrigued. I mean, I'd never seen anything like it. And I remember thinking back to when Survivor first came on the air and got popular. I just thought that show was the stupidest thing ever, because I'm like, if you really want a Survivor, just take somebody out, drop them somewhere, and see if they live. That's Survivor. And now, lo and behold, there's a show pretty much like it, and I couldn't resist the casting application on the website, as I was kind of just looking at the website and learning about the show, and just on a whim, filled out the application more out of curiosity than anything else, just kind of what the hell kind of questions they ask somebody.
How much were you drinking that night?
I was probably about almost a full bottle of wine at that point.
I remember you called me afterwards and I was like, you did what?
Yeah, one of those, a night in, doing a little drinking, a little TV watching, and yeah. Should not be on the internet while you're drinking. That's all I have to say.
That is
idea.
so true.
You'll end up, stripped butt naked and thrown off in the middle of nowhere for 21 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was one of those things that you never really expect anything to come out of. Like, everyone fills out the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes. You're never going to win the $1 million or whatever. I filled that application out mostly for fun, just to see what kind of questions they had. And lo and behold, the very next day, they called me, wanted to speak with me, and about 24 interviews and trips and video interviews and things like that later. Yeah, it happened.
So do you have to submit headshots when you fill out that application too, or was it just tell us about you?
You don't really have to submit headshots, because I, for one, didn't have anything like that, but they do ask for a photo just to have a general idea of what you look like. So I think I sent them my Facebook profile picture or something.
Mm-hmm. Is that the one with you flipping off the camera or something?
No, not that one.
Oh, okay. I was just checking.
Yeah, just some random photo I had on my computer. Of course, granted, I was already kind of into the wine, so it was. I don't even remember exactly what photo it was. It was probably doing something asinine or something.
Here's me on a trapeze in a corset.
Well.
In roller skates.
Actually, maybe.
I might have sent that one. I
don't know. Too funny. So I know with most of these shows that have come out, Doomsday Preppers and all these other things, that most people in the community are at best irritated by, partially because it's so staged and so fake, and you can tell that in a lot of instances, wait a minute, that's probably not what that person was even prepping for. You probably just staged this and said, you will be prepping for zombie apocalypse probing or something. I don't know. But, wow, that was a weird visual. Get that out of my
brain go to with that one, man?
I don't know. We had 2 beers and a pizza before we started the show, and now I'm in some kind of weird coma state. But in all seriousness, how was it working with the cast? I mean, you brought up earlier that it was very realistic and that it was actually hard. But how was it work? Did you feel respected by them? Did you feel like...
It was actually a lot less awkward than I thought it was going to be. The crew that was on location with my partner and I had been basically the core crew that had filmed the entire first season of the show. So, it was nothing new for them. They didn't have any wet behind the ears, production assistant interns or anything out there gawking at people or anything like that. I mean, very, very professional, very respectful. And there were only just a few of them. There were usually no more than 3 people on location following us around at any given time. So it wasn't this huge crew of, 10, 20 people with equipment and lights and all this stuff. It was basically a guy with a camera, a guy with a microphone, and a producer trying to kind of coordinate things and kind of going back and forth with editors and things like that. Because they periodically, from my understanding, would send samples of video back to the offices in California. And we're getting feedback constantly, kind of in real time. Okay, the lighting is terrible now. We can't see anything. I might as well go home. And just little things like that. So they were always kind of doing their own thing. But it was always just a few people. So it was never very intrusive. Actually, very, very pleasant. I really can't say anything bad about the crew. They were very professional and really knew what they were doing.
Oh, well, cool. So the naked part, I mean, I got to ask, was there a lot of, wait, no, not that camera angle?
Kind of. The first day, I was very aware of where the cameras were and of how I was standing, how I was sitting, and things like that. But that awkwardness passes pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I can notice in that little short video that they have of you online right now, I can notice your body language and you're keeping like your legs, closed together. And you're squatting down on all, being like real prissy and.
Well, yeah.
I'm just saying. I could actually see that in the video itself, and because I know you. I mean, I know your body language types, and just watching that, I'm just like, oh yeah, that's got to be the first day.
Yeah,
because like those other couple clips, no, there's no way.
You'll see more too after a couple of days when the hunger hits you and the thirst hits you, and you really start to get frustrated. You really don't give a damn anymore, and all of cameras and people walking around and stuff like that, it disappears.
Mm-hmm.
So how many thoughts of cannibalism did you have?
Quite a few, actually. Yeah, that was always kind of a last resort. Luckily, pretty adept at finding other things to eat, but that was always in the back of my mind.
How hard was it to find food while you were out there?
It really wasn't that hard to find food, but the problem was that the food was just so basic. It gave you kind of just the bare minimum of what you needed to function. You couldn't get a lot of energy off it. There was nothing fatty, nothing with a lot of nutrition. You had to really vary your diet to get everything you needed because everything was really small. There weren't, a lot of animals on the island. I mean, no rabbits, no snakes, nothing of any substance to really go after. The fish that were around were just really small, kind of like minnow sort of things. Anything that was a little bit bigger, that's going to be a little bit more substantial, you had to go way out into the reefs and stuff for. And, being the redhead that I am, I was not about to go, swim, a quarter mile off an island or something and burn myself attempting to maybe get, something larger. I was just going to take my chances with what was readily available, and it was a lot of just small stuff. So you just had to constantly eat just to have your basic caloric intake.
At any point, did you find yourself being squeamish about something where you're just like, I really don't want to eat this, but I'm starving, so I'm just going to eat it anyway? Like, production crew, whatever.
The only thing I was kind of squeamish about was like I had found a tube worm one evening at low tide because I was really getting tired of what I had been eating. I was just, trying to get a little variety in. And I knew they were edible and I'd heard they were okay, but they're just so disgusting looking that I really had to force myself just to try it. And really the only thing that got me through that was just knowing that it wasn't going to hurt me. So I was like, well, I can at least just give it a whirl. They're easy to catch. They don't, have legs or anything. They can't run away, so they're not too bad. But
unlike the production crew,
yeah, they'll fight back a little bit. But that was the only thing I was kind of squeamish about at first, just because they're nasty. It looks like some kind of raw hot dog with one giant gut in the middle, and you have to split it. And it just looks like a slab of, like a tube of fat or something.
Ew.
And I threw it on the fire, and it smelled kind of good, and took a bite of it, and it was like chewing on rubber. You had to kind of rip it out of my teeth just to take a bite out of it, but it was actually pretty good.
I was going to say, how did it taste?
It tasted kind of like an undercooked chicharron.
Okay.
If that might not make sense to a whole lot of people. If you're a fan of chicharrons, then it might.
Yeah, I totally get that kind of fatty.
Yeah, it was just kind of like just almost, it had the texture of hard steak fat, kind of. It kind of tasted a little bit fishy, of course, because it was out of the ocean. But it's actually not too bad. So I started making that kind of a goal to find some more of those, because they were kind of hard to eat because they were kind of that chewy, crunchy texture and kind of like jerky, just kind of hard to deal with. It was slimy, spongy jerky.
Yeah.
I guess.
Slimy, spongy jerky.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
But the flavor was actually pretty good.
That's interesting. How much harder was the experience than you thought it was going to be? Because I know, like, in prep, there's so much bravado. Myself included. Oh, yeah, I want to run off to the woods and eat pine bark or something. But at the end of the day, I mean, in the back of our minds, we all know that it's much more difficult in reality and in practice than it is in whatever fantasies we have in our head. But since you actually got dropped off naked somewhere and had to really do it, what was it really like to go through it?
It was really, really hard. I really think that the thing that made it the most difficult was the naked part, which included not having shoes. Because even with limited tools, you can get quite a bit done, as long as you're mobile. And when you don't have any shoes and you're walking on, broken coral that feels like glass, volcanic rock everywhere, just kind of tearing at the soles of your feet, your range of hunting and foraging is really, really limited. And just not having clothes, you can't regulate your own body temperature. And you're thinking, oh, it's a tropical island, it's going to be warm all the time. But even the slightest fluctuation in temperature, you feel every bit of it. It'll be in the 60s and you're shivering and it's hard to function when it doesn't even sound like it's that cold. But when you don't have clothes on and then it starts to rain, and it makes it really, really hard. That has a completely different dimension that I really wasn't prepared for at first.
Is that what you would say you didn't prepare yourself enough for, was the aspect of how hard it was going to be? Or I guess that's the question. What did you feel like you didn't prepare yourself well enough for?
Really, the main thing that I wish I had been able to practice or prepare a little bit better for was working with palm fronds, looking back and kind of getting some weaving skills down and having that. Because that was a big opportunity. I mean, it was something that was very abundant on the island, had it at my disposal, almost, infinitely. But I was doing good just to kind of braid some things together kind of haphazardly. And I think I could have accomplished a lot more as far as just comfort wise if I had my weaving skills down a little bit more.
And perhaps better outfits.
Yeah, I would have had some really cute outfits then.
Palm frond miniskirt.
Yep.
You had the little moo thing going on. I saw that in the video.
Yeah, a grass moo and a matching hat. It was lovely.
Little Miss Lady Gaga of survival. I swear to God, I mean, just on the little clips that I've seen, I've kind of at least 6 different outfits. I'm talking about outfits.
That's impressive. That's like Burning Man.
Yeah.
I mean, you're naked and you've got all these outfits, and somehow those two things work together.
Yep, costume change.
How did it actually affect you physically? Because I know when I picked you up, at the airport, you had noticeably lost weight.
Yeah.
Of course, you recovered. You spent a couple days. You kind of I guess in recovery. So I didn't see you right when you got off the island. How much of a physical and mental effect did it have on you, especially towards that last week?
Really, in the last week, when I could feel how close I was to getting off of there, it was just a game of preserving what little energy I had and just focusing on day 21 at that point. And because physically, by the last week, I had pretty much lost the maximum amount of weight I was going to lose. It kind of stabilized. And then it was just a matter of keeping my wits about me and taking everything literally just one day at a time. And I was counting the nights, not so much the days, because the nights were hard. That's when everything got really hard. The mosquitoes would come in and it would get really cold. And that's when it seemed like it always just rained at night. It never rained during the day for some reason. It definitely took its toll physically, but even that has its limitations. Like mentally, you can just experience so much more just struggle mentally.
Because and we all know survival is very, very much a mental game.
Oh yeah.
So what all did you do, mind game wise, to kind of help you kind of get through it?
I really just thought about how great everything would be when I got off the island, and I knew that every ounce of pain I was feeling, every ounce of hunger, boredom, sometimes all the negative things that were happening to me and I was experiencing were just going to equal that much happiness, I guess you could say, when I got off the island. You're trying to get me all deep here and I can't even I don't even know. But I just knew that everything that sucked was going to make everything good later that much better. So it kind of let me almost embrace the suck.
Okay.
So it was a sense of hope, like things will get better, there's an end to this, and that kind of helped you.
Exactly, yeah. Knowing that there was an ending point and that it was finite and I was only going to have to do it for so long helped a lot. Although that did influence my game plan, too. I mean, if it was a situation where I was just thrown out somewhere and had to find my way back to civilization, or I didn't know when I was maybe going to be extracted, and it was, that wasn't in the equation, it probably would have been a completely different ballgame. like completely different kind of strategy and just daily routine at that point.
At any point, did it get easier where, like, with backpacking or anything else, you have like the first 72 hours is terrible, and then all of a sudden you kind of get into a groove and get used to things? Did you find that to be the case, or did it just kind of start sucking and then just keep sucking and never really get better until, I guess, day 21 when they finally took you off the island?
Actually, you do kind of get into a rhythm. I did have to kind of force myself to have a routine because it's hard to keep track of time and things like that while you're there. So you naturally kind of fall into just the normal kind of sun and moon cycle. I started paying attention to the tides and birds and other animals. When they would start to roost, it was time for me to make a fire and roost myself and things like that.
Oh, interesting.
So you have to kind of create that routine for yourself. Because the first few days when I was trying to kind of establish what was going on, I was trying to adapt. That process is what is probably where it was most difficult. But once you just get into some kind of routine, anything, just wake up and eat something and then take a nap, and then wake up, eat something again, take another nap. As long as there's something regular going on, it does make it a lot easier, and you kind of get used to things after a while.
Does it make things easier from like a mental, emotional standpoint, or just make things easier from as far as like things actually get done?
It definitely does not make things easier on a mental standpoint. Physically, absolutely. Because once you're kind of established in a routine, you have your water source established, you have your food source established, you have shelter, and that down, it leaves plenty of time for your mind to just wander. And that's when things start to get difficult, when you start really feeling that kind of isolation and that aloneness and just kind of alone with your thoughts. And that's when things can get a little sketchy.
Like spending a little too much time in your own head.
Yeah. There were some definite kind of adjustments going on for a few days there, and a little hallucinating and stuff like that. But
are you sure that wasn't the tube worm?
This was actually before the tube worm.
Okay.
So yeah. But yeah, your mind does play tricks on you. I guess it's one of those. Your brain has its own kind of survival methods too. So when it's confronted with something so foreign and so out of the norm, it just has certain reactions, I guess. But I was expecting that on some level. I was expecting to have those bad days. And I was expecting to feel like I was going a little crazy and things like that. So knowing what to expect and how things were going to play out and how my body and my mind were going to react made it a lot easier to roll with when it actually happened, because it didn't really catch me as off guard.
How important of a role did planning play in things? Like the first day, y'all get around each other, you're doing all the production stuff that has to happen and everything else, but then throughout the rest of the time, I guess, was it just take things as they come, or did you do a lot of mental planning, or was it just I was so wiped out from barely eating that it was just kind of, oh, there's something that can't run faster than me, let me eat it. And, oh, there's a leaf, let me put that over a part that could sunburn easily today or whatever.
Well, it's a little both. It is really helpful, and we did find it very important to at least have some sort of a goal each day, something to kind of focus on, something to work towards, whether it was finding containers for water or maybe exploring a new part of the island. Or just making a couple rounds looking for some fruit trees or something. Just having some sort of activity to kind of focus on helped a lot, but you still want to remain flexible. So if you're, on your way looking for bananas or something and you happen across, like a hole with a big crab in it or something, just be prepared to like go in and stop what you're doing and get the food or what have you. So it's definitely a nice mix of planning and flexibility.
Okay.
So can you honestly say that you really went into that hunter-gatherer mode?
I did, very much so. Well, I tried to be more hunter-gatherer at first, and then after a while it seemed that I was kind of operating on just basic instinct, and I felt a little bit like a monkey that escaped from the zoo or something. I was just, after a while, I was like, screw it, I'm an animal, and I would, sleep when the animal slept, and I would just kind of scavenge for things, and just as I walked around, like, oh, that looks edible, I'll eat it. Just kind of hunting and pecking as you go. I kind of threw any planning out the window after a certain point. I tried to stick to kind of a timeline, wake up, eat, drink, you have to kind of remember and like force yourself to remember some of those basic things. So you start to kind of drone out a little bit mentally, but I definitely went into kind of beast mode, you could say. And just, I'm awesome. Walking along. If, the right bug just like flew by me, I'd snatch and eat and just keep on trucking, not even think about it.
Beast mode. Love it. Love it. Beast mode.
I think she means something different than you do.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, you know what, man? I wasn't even going there. Come on, y'all. Come on.
I didn't mean anything other than like, a couple shots of tequila and you're like, yeah, beast mode.
Okay. All
right. I guess the next question would be, what preconceived notions about survival that either you had or common things we hear, would you say were dispelled for you while you were out there?
I've been in like makeup land all day, so I'm not even survival.
So for it's like how easy it would be, or how hard it would actually be, or how much food there would be, because you're big into foraging and stuff.
Yeah.
So was that something where you were like, oh, it'll be a piece of cake, and it was actually like, oh my god, all I had today was this silly little crab?
Yeah, I really wasn't expecting the experience to be as hard as it was. I didn't have a whole lot to go on. I just knew I was going to be in Fiji. I didn't know North Islands, South Islands, any of that. Mm-hmm. But my research was very broad and very vague at the same time, because I was kind of researching, animal life, on the Fiji Islands, plant life, just to kind of get a feel for what my resources were. And all the things that I was expecting to find were not on my island at all. There were hardly any animals. I mean, there were some islands that have, populations of wild pigs and wild goats. I had hermit crabs on my island. And I was expecting, all these different varieties of fruit and all these different types of plants that had, very starchy root tubers and things like that. None of those on my island. So.
Oh, wow.
As pretty and lush as it was, there was really not a whole lot of usable material. It was a lot of grass. I had a very grassy island, and I hate grass. I absolutely hate it, because it wasn't just regular grass, like roll down the hill and roll in the grass. No, this was like 3 feet long razor blades.
Oh, yeah,
coming out of the ground.
Yeah.
And you can't hardly even walk through those. It's like hundreds of paper cuts all over your legs, like with every step. Mm-hmm. I would try to walk from point A to point B. By the time I got there, I was just a bloody mess from the waist down, just little cuts all over my legs. So I really was not expecting that at all. In all the research that I had done, no one ever mentioned razor blade grass.
Most people usually aren't running around out there naked.
Yeah. And I guess being, a smaller country, I guess it's considered a third world country, based on, their economy and government and all that stuff. There's not as much information about that specific area as you would find on, say, like Hawaii or the Philippines, which is much more populated, because it's still a very kind of indigenous area. So there's not a lot of that type of information out there, at least not on the internet. I'm sure there's some books that were written by explorers back in the 1700s that, documented things or whatever. But in all of the research I came across, it was very, there's hibiscus everywhere, and you can make cordage out of it. And there's taro that grows everywhere, and it's like eating potatoes. There was not a single hibiscus plant on my island, not a single damn taro. And I was like, great, now what am I going to do? I ended up like eating dirt.
You mentioned talking about, or a couple of times I talked to you about the beans, the tree beans.
I still don't know what those were. I have no idea what they were. I have done so many like Google searches and image searches and tried to word things differently. Apparently it's edible because I'm still alive and I was eating them every day.
But you were seeing stuff. Hallucinations.
Yeah, maybe. It could have been some like...
They were the magic beans.
Yeah.
Ecstasy of the islands.
But yeah, it was this really weird tree, kind of a thin, flexible, kind of a bushy sort of tree. And it looks like peas in a pod were growing all over it. It's little seed pods. And when I was there, it was kind of mid-spring I guess, kind of, almost about to go into summer. So everything was still kind of in seed form and just starting to bud and things like that. So it was, very young little peas that grew in the trees, hence the name tree peas, that I was eating every day. But yeah, I've looked up and down to find out what that plant is. I have no idea. I mean, they were tasty and kept me going. I had them every day for breakfast. But yeah, I have no idea what I was eating. And I'm lucky it wasn't toxic. Or maybe it was, and now there's something completely horrible wrong with me, but I don't know.
You came back pretty safe.
You gotta take your chances sometimes. If it doesn't sting, it doesn't, make you vomit in a fairly quick amount of time, just keep eating it. I mean, that 24-hour edibility test is great in theory, but when you're starving, you just kind of go for it sometimes and hope for the best. So yeah, that's one thing that I thought was going to be a lot easier. I thought it was just going to be like walking through Whole Foods or something, just like fresh fruit and organic potatoes, and no, it was very, very sparse. And I also just really underestimated the power of shoes. I knew it was going to be hard being barefoot, and I'd seen some of the other shows, and I was one of those people watching too, weaklings, or I could have done that so much better. But when you're actually out there, it's hard. Mm-hmm. It's really, really hard. And I tried to toughen my feet before I went. I was running the trail at Memorial, 3 miles barefoot over the gravel. And
and that's decomposed granite trail, so it's that heavy gravel kind of.
Yeah, and that really helped. And I was also doing some jogging on a trail near my house that was asphalt. And the first couple times I did it, I had bloody feet. But, after a while, stuck with it. I thought it was good to go. I was like, I've got built-in flip-flops now. I'm fine. Because all of that, I guess, practice and that training that I was doing here at home got easier. So I'm like, okay, I should be ready. But getting out there, it was a completely different type of terrain, completely different kind of textures, I guess, than what my feet had, or I thought my feet had gotten used to. And everything was just, it all sucked. So any preconceived notion or anything I thought I was going to be able to find or thought I was going to be able to do, it didn't happen. You just had to be able to adapt and be flexible and just change your plan and all your strategy kind of on the fly. And one of the things, this is probably the thing that pissed me off more than anything, but looking back, it was a good thing, and I'm glad it worked out that way, because it ended up being so much more of a real experience. But half of my survival strategy was utilizing beach trash out there. Because any island in the world, you're going to find just human garbage everywhere.
Right.
And I was expecting, bottles. I'm going to catch water and have all these bottles and pieces of plastic and fishing line and pieces of nets and random one shoe and things like that. There was some trash out there, but we could not use it.
Really?
Yeah. It was something that kind of the show and the channel, more than even the producers that were involved, it was kind of that, the big evil corporation. The channel was like, no, we want to keep it, very pure. We want to keep it very primitive. We want to keep it very wild. No items can be used that were produced by man, except for the tool you bring.
Oh, that's wild. Because on the other shows that same channel has, every episode there's water in there, and there's human trash everywhere, and you can use it. Yeah. But humans are evil.
Yeah, making.
not that they're not litter bugs, but
making
still.
Stoves and pots and finding clothes and all sorts of things. Yeah, we could not touch a stitch of that.
Yeah, I think I watched Cody Lundeen make a still out of some copper wire in a can that honestly looked like they staged it there. But I mean, you never know. But it was copper wire in a can, and he and Dave Canterbury made a desalinating still in one episode out of fun stuff. But they wouldn't let y'all do that. That sucks.
And he probably could have found some copper wire, because we found all kinds of crazy stuff out there, but can't use it. Can't use it.
Yeah.
So, that killed me.
See, but season 1 they were using beach trash.
Yeah, but
were they?
Yeah, in the Maldives. Yeah.
I don't remember which
underwear and
that's
there was
the one
a shirt.
With it was Allison and Jonathan. Jonathan's the guy that got sunburnt really bad.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they found flip flops and they made towards the end they made a raft out of bottles, a bunch of water bottles and things they collected to float, or they did something floating. Mm-hmm. They found clothes and nothing.
Huh.
Now, were you expecting your teammate to be a Jonathan? I was hoping.
Well, I was hoping for Thor when I got out there, but I did not get Thor. Yeah, I was expecting just somebody who was just, expert to end all experts, like a MacGyver. Mm-hmm. That's what I was expecting. And I thought that would have made things a lot, especially on me. I would have to do a heck of a lot less if somebody knew so much more and had so much more ability. Yeah, I didn't get MacGyver. I did not get Thor. I got a Boy Scout with a bad back. So yeah, that was definitely a monkey wrench.
Yeah.
On top of not being able to utilize the huge resource of human trash. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah, and is my understanding right that they had actually been playing up that he was supposed to be this big survival guy and all this other stuff. So you really were kind of expecting King Nature Boy. Yeah,
I was hoping it was going to be like just, fun camping trip at that point. Like we would both, be kind of pulling our own weight and everything would be, hunky dory and
yeah. So how was meeting a stranger naked for the first time on a random island with video cameras around?
It was about as awkward as it gets.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably the most kind of mind-melting part of the whole experience. Because I'll eat bugs, then get cut up and whatever. That's fine, but just stripping down and here I am, and some other guy kind of awkwardly walking toward me. His feet were already hurting. Day one when he was walking over the rocks to like come meet me, and he was like dangling and flopping around everywhere. I was like, oh God, this is going to be awful. So, yeah, that was really awkward. But honestly, after a few minutes, it's like, just don't look down and everything's fine. Mm-hmm. So, and it kind of helped also that day one, that's really probably the only day where there was like true production going on, because they want to get good shots of when the people meet on the island. That's really the only thing that's kind of produced.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, everyone now go walk up and shake hands and say something. Oh no, we didn't get that. Let's do it again. Like, act surprised, like you're meeting each other the first time again. You do that about 10 times. So that it really kind of helped the awkwardness sort of go away.
One set of jiggly balls, just like the other one.
Yeah. It was kind of distracting of what was going on between like him and I when we were able to kind of focus on following directions from production. But after probably that first hour, you're on your own.
Like, so you're naked. How's it going?
Yeah. We really relaxed about it fairly quickly. And I think it was maybe day 2 or day 3. I don't remember. Neither one of us had really made much of an effort to make any clothing. I was just trying to stay in the shade. That was my strategy at that point. And we had kind of made a pact. It was like, well, I'm okay with being naked. And I was like, well, I'm okay with being naked. Well, let's just both be naked at the same time. Let's not worry about clothes. If it doesn't bother you, I was like, all right, well, fine, deal. So the entire first week, didn't even worry about it. Completely just like butt naked the entire time. Not even caring. And it was probably right about day 7, day 8, the producer was like, can y'all please try to make some clothes or something? This is going to be hell to edit. She's like, you can do what you want. You have total freedom, but just please consider covering up something, please. And that was really the only time any sort of kind of interference, even if you want to call it interference, happened. There was a suggestion of, can you just cover something up? Because we're going to be paying all of our pixelators overtime, I guess. I don't know.
That's pretty funny. See, I would have never thought I would have never thought of the crew getting to a point where they're like, can you please put some clothes on?
Yeah, I think, well, because they were sending footage every evening to the studios.
Right.
So, because they were starting editing basically the day after it was being filmed. So it was a really long, really involved process. And I guess I started getting feedback from the studios like, y'all, this is getting really hard. Like, everything is pixels. We've got to do something about this. Make them put something on.
You got to wonder what they were using that they were able to push, because video is very heavy internet-wise to be able to push through the web, especially like raw footage. That's pretty impressive that on some random island in the middle of wherever they were able to push all that video up every night back to LA?
Well, I mean, they weren't doing it from that island.
Oh, okay.
They would get whatever footage they needed. They were only there for a few hours a day.
Oh, so they weren't like camped out on another part of the island. They were like leaving the island altogether at night.
They were loading in a boat and taking off.
Oh wow!
Every night.
Did they leave like an emergency phone with you guys or anything?
We did have. We had a satellite phone or walkie-talkie kind of thing that was wired into. There was a base camp in another area, maybe. I'm not exactly sure how far away it was, but they said that if there's an emergency, someone should be there in about 20 minutes. So it was probably not too close, but there was, I guess, a base camp. I don't even know what that would consist of on a set like that, but it's probably no more than like a cooler and a tent. I don't know. But they would stick a medic out there at night who would just, he would have to, I guess, stay awake all night and just listen for the walkie-talkie or something to come through. And that person had other communications to call production and the hospitals and things like that. But it was just, they had one person camped out on another nearby island, because it's tons of little islands all around there. So, yeah, that was pretty much it. That was our entire connection to civilization at that point. Once the crew left, that was it. We had a walkie-talkie. And
was that nerve-wracking in any way?
It kind of was at first, because it was... Like that first night, it was really kind of scary, and that's when it all kind of set in.
Like, oh my God, I'm in a strange land with a weird naked guy. And
he was probably a little more scared of me than I was of him, though.
Well, you're kind of scary, Sal. It's like, she's going to shiv me in my sleep.
Yeah,
she's going to eat me.
Yeah, he learned really quick that, you don't...
You don't mess with the ginger?
Yeah, don't mess with the ginger. Don't make the wrong kind of joke. Watch your sarcasm, It was kind of nerve-wracking at first, just knowing that you have very little option if something did go wrong. So it just made you be a little more aware of what you were doing and not so reckless, and it made you kind of calculate every move. Like, okay, we're gonna go down to the beach. Okay, let's scout it out first, and let's see where the rocks are, and let's try to kind of map out this. Let's walk around this way where it's more sandy and we don't have to climb. And you really try to be extra careful, just because you're pretty much screwed if something does happen, even though there's a medic, 20 minutes away.
A lot can happen in 20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. So we still tried to be very careful.
Okay. Was that both of you, or was that more you being more responsible than him, or him being more responsible than you, or?
I'd have to say it was a pretty even mix of both.
Like, holy crap, we could easily both die.
Yeah. Because looking back, because of course in the moment, it's your own perspective, and you're not really thinking about anything other than your own survival after a few days and all of that. But
like, I will push you out of my way.
Yeah. But there were a couple of kind of unnecessary chances and kind of wastes of calories that my partner did that I would get mad about and yell at him about or something. But then also looking back, there were some times when I really shouldn't have been doing what I was doing at all, and it could have come out really, really bad. But at the time, I was like, oh, it's fine. Yeah. It's not something I would, in my right state of mind, I would do.
Yeah. Just watch the show. That's all I gotta say. Just watch the show.
I'm sure the thing I'm thinking of will be on there.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. No, it has to be. It has to be.
So, yeah.
Do you feel like you picked the right survival item?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was torn between knife of some sort and fire, because I knew those were going to be the two most basic things I would need out there. I ultimately went with fire because at the time that I decided to go with the fire starter, I was still under the impression that we could use beach trash. So I was thinking, I'll find some metal or be able to shape something. So I was like, I can probably rig up a knife or some sort of cutting tool somehow. But fire, without a fire starter, you're left with friction. And that area, there's not a lot of real wood. It's all palm trees, which is, technically it's a shrub. So the wood is very soft and kind of fibery.
Yeah, it's good. It's good for starting a fire, but not for actually using a bow and drill.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Great tinder.
Yeah,
really great tinder. But yeah, not a lot of good chances for a friction fire out there. Plus, it was the rainy season, so I was anticipating a lot of a lot of rain. So everything, even if I did find something on the ground to make fire with, it was going to be wet and it was going to be even more difficult. And a million different reasons for me to take a fire starter. And I'm still really, really glad I did.
So you took, what did you have, a ferro rod?
I had the little striker.
Yeah, okay.
Thing, yeah.
I think you and I were talking about it when you first got back, something about, what is it? It wore out faster or wore down faster than you were expecting.
Really
Because I think a lot of people have the conception that those things last a really long time. And if you're using it on a constant basis, you were like, yeah, no, it was like what did you say? It was like a nub when you got done or something?
Not exactly a nub, but it would not have lasted another 21 days.
Oh, wow.
Because it was, I guess it was about 3 inches long with the little metal striker that goes on the side, and perfect conditions, just a couple of sparks, with the right tinder, you can have a fire. I would grind on that thing. There would be some days when it was like misting or sprinkling or,
Oh, yeah.
And everything's wet, and you kind of have to almost dry out your tinder with the sparks and then try to ignite it.
Yeah.
So I was just like grinding on that thing for, 10 minutes, 20 minutes sometimes before I could get anything to ignite. So I wore it down really, really thin in the center.
Wow. Yeah, no, I had one when I was practicing with one. And I spent like every night coming home for like a week or something, I would play with different like tender and different styles of doing it. And that's sometimes, you'll get just the right tender. It's just the right conditions and bam, one spark and it sets off. Yeah. But most of the time you're sitting there like striking and striking and striking and striking. Like, come on, I'm sick of doing this.
Yeah. There was maybe one or two times when I started a fire and it really did just go up like that. Just really, really quick. But it was much later in the challenge, after I'd really gotten a feel for what materials on the island did make good tinder and things like that. I wish I had discovered like cocoa fiber.
Oh, yeah.
A lot earlier, or had been able to find my kind of stash of it earlier than I did, because, man, that stuff goes up like kerosene.
Yeah.
It's like just
because it's got all that oil in it and everything.
And it just goes up fast.
Didn't you do something you were using coconut oil for something?
Yeah, well, that was probably my biggest food source, and it was also a pillow. At one point, it was a coconut. It was also my...
That doesn't seem comfortable.
It's really not too bad.
I'll take your word for it.
If you get one that's kind of big enough, the sides are kind of flat.
Oh, okay, so
it's not too bad.
Okay.
But yeah, I was using every bit of every coconut I would find. Of course, the water inside.
Right.
You use the husk that you pull off of it. It burns great. It will hold a coal for a couple of days. So you don't have to necessarily start a fire every single day if you hold it with the coconut husks. The shells I was using to cook food in and use as like water cups, things like that. Of course, eating the meat. And I learned if you crack a coconut open, if it's a ripe one, if it's not too young, let it sit for a little while and it gets this nice glaze of coconut oil that seeps out from the meat. That is the best stuff for like cuticles, lip balm, put on sunburn. As and whatever was left over from doing all that, I would just kind of run it through my hair. And as dirty and grimy and gross as my hair was, that first shower I took when I finally got off the island, my hair has never been softer. Like, coconut oil is the bomb.
So remember that, boys. If you're stuck on a desert island, coconut oil for your cuticles.
Yes, absolutely. All that digging in the dirt and moving sand around.
No, I'm just screwing with you. That's really. Yeah, I remember when you were telling me about that, and I was like, "Really? That's hysterical! I love it."
I mean, come on, look. You've got a makeup artist that is a survivalist, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, come on.
She's going to be like making up her own products.
Yeah.
So, like, I need some moisturizer around here somewhere. I need some lip balm. Oh my god, what do I got?
And a fantastic exfoliator.
Yeah, when you were telling us you were making all these outfits and stuff, I was like, well, of course you are. Of course you are. But now we were all very sad because you had figured out a way to make alcohol on the island.
Oh, my God.
What happened with that?
Well, it was kind of a twofold problem. Yeah, that was one of the things I was determined to find out how to do in my, hours and hours and hours of research. Yeah, there's a pretty simple way to make kind of a weak wine out of just coconut stalk, like the flower stalk.
Okay.
For one, like all the trees on my island were very mature, very tall. I wasn't real keen on shimmying up, a 30-foot tall tree just to try to get some wine, because that's, not a very good, way to spend your calories or, possibly like break your bones or something if you fell out. So that was a problem. Didn't really find anything low enough to utilize in an easy way. And my partner was a recovering alcoholic. So it just wouldn't have been in good taste to pursue the winemaking venture when he really
okay. But here's another question. Without giving anything away, how long would it take you before you were like, screw you, I'm making a drink?
It probably within the first week. If it had been a little more feasible, I would have been like, you don't have to drink it. You don't have to watch me. See you in a little while.
So by like week 2, you're like throwing it in his face.
Probably.
Oh, it burned your eyes.
Or I might have just forced him to drink some too, and you can do 12 steps again when you get back out, back off the island. But yeah,
exactly.
We're gonna have a drink.
What is it? And I think it's been funny. Like I went back and watched all the episodes when because I didn't even really know it was on until it had been on. Actually, I think the first season was like already over or something. Yeah. And then you told me about it and then told me she was going to be on it. And so I went back and watched all the episodes. I was like, wow, this is actually a really cool show. But one of the things I noticed, it seemed like all of the guys on the show, except for that one chick, who I'm still amazed that those people didn't just drown that girl. Like, we don't know what happened to her. The one that lied about having any skills at all.
The double jeopardy, right?
I would have just drowned her. Or, could throw her on the fire and eat her. But it seems like most of the guys on that show end up being very peculiar, we'll say.
I think you have to be a little peculiar to begin with to even
be in prep and survival. No,
something like that. Well, yeah, that too. No, that's smart.
We're perfectly normal people. I don't know what you're talking about.
Just slightly paranoid.
Yeah, but to take it that extra step and to put yourself in a situation like that on purpose, with a stranger, something's not quite right to begin with, and I'm fine with that. I'll own that.
That's why we roll with you. You're crazy like that. So if you had something to do over on the show, or something that, besides the palm fronds, that you wish you'd learned or done differently or anything like that, what regrets do you have about it?
Kind of looking back, I wish I had maybe taken a few more chances than I did on the island. I was being so cautious and was so paranoid about hurting myself and, being taken out of the challenge, just not of my own accord. I took very few kind of physical risks. I probably could have been a little more adventurous in that sense, not so much just for the sake of adventure, but I probably would have had a little bit more to eat, a little bit better, like sleeping arrangements, things like that, if I had just ventured a little further than what I thought was safe. But I was just really concerned about just getting myself knocked out of it through, a medical call or something like that. So I just played it really, really, really safe. And I guess when it comes down to survival, that's what it's all about in essence.
Yeah, you do have to, you don't want to...
you're not taking unnecessary risks and things like that, but kind of knowing that there was just a 21-day limit, that it was going to end on a certain day, and worst case scenario, in 20 minutes, somebody would be there to haul me away. I probably could have been a little less rigid with my own, just policing myself with that. I wish I'd kind of loosened up a little bit more.
What about how soon did you want to get off the island? Like, as far as, and you can throw something at me at this point, but as far as me asking me like, no, I'm super tough. But as far as, I'm sure at some point early on, you're like, what if I just gave up? What if I just went home? Did that go through your mind?
Actually, of course. It went through my mind a lot. Day one, it probably went through my mind just because, I was taking everything in. Like, I'm looking at my partner and I'm looking at our situation. I'm like, yeah, this was a bad idea. But, so, of course it goes through your mind, especially on those bad days when it is raining and you're being attacked by mosquitoes and all your fire has not only gone out, but has been washed away or something like that. You come really close sometimes to giving up. So, yeah, I will admit there were several times in the first week, second week, third week, that I thought about it. But kind of have to catch yourself. It kind of goes back to what I was saying about being aware of the way your mind is going to react to certain situations and kind of being prepared for the changes that your body goes through in a situation of like starvation and malnutrition, things like that. When you're kind of ready for those thoughts and ready for those urges, you can kind of talk yourself off the ledge a little bit.
Mm-hmm. So that's interesting. Was there anything mentally that happened minus the hallucinations, or maybe the hallucinations too, that you weren't prepared for? That caught you off guard?
Actually, yeah. The hallucinations, actually, after the first couple of days, they got to be fun. So I was looking forward to them.
Like pink elephant fun? What are we talking about here? Because I'm thinking these berries may have been, or peas may have been a problem. But anyway, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
No, but that was my entertainment in the evening, was the hallucinations for a while. But it really surprised me at how much I missed people and just missed being around people and just having human contact.
Yeah, because I mean, you're in a lot of, I mean, you and I are a lot alike in that way, where I'm just like, I just need to know that you exist, and beyond that, just go away.
Yeah, like I
like my alone time.
Yeah, I'd be perfectly happy like staying in my house, you know, for 21 days, 42 days, whatever, multiple of that. But just knowing that I have that contact if I want it, I guess helps.
Yeah.
Because other than that, I can be a hermit probably indefinitely. But knowing, for one, having no contact with anybody else, and knowing that you couldn't have that contact with anybody else until a certain day, that really hit me hard, and I was not expecting that.
Really?
I thought that was going to be easy. I was like, oh, I'm a loner anyways. I'll be glad to get away from people. This is going to be awesome. And that last week, I was like really missing like my family and my friends and everybody. I was like, I don't even like these people, but I'm missing them.
I can attest to that, because I was freaking out that last week.
Yeah, but you're not a loner.
No. It was the fact that, I don't know, you're on some crazy island, and I couldn't. Yeah.
Yeah, that being half a world away and just being like, if something happened, I couldn't be there, or even if I just want to say hi, that option. Because I guess
you can just text me and be like, hey, how do I fix this? Or how do I do this? I can text back like with video. It's driving me nuts.
Yeah,
in a lot of ways, we're super spoiled by that, because we do have constant and instant connection to each other. Somebody and I were talking about that recently, about how they're like, oh, people in the country are so much more friendly and all this other stuff. I'm like, well, yeah, you're not like, you don't have people in your space constantly. So I think in a lot of ways, being in close proximity to other people a lot of times does kind of desensitize you, because you're kind of like, okay, I need you out of my space. And I can't imagine going from that, where you are in this close urban environment with, what is it? Are we the third largest city in the country now, or close enough to it where it's however many millions of liberals are here? I mean, people are here. And by that token, it's just like, I guess in a lot of ways, I'd be like you, where I wouldn't think that it would be that big of a deal.
Yeah. And admittedly, at first it was nice. It's like, peace and quiet. And I'm naked and it doesn't matter. And it was kind of fun. But then I was just like, I wonder what my mom's doing now. Or, wonder if my dog is getting fed. And you just start to think about home. And you start to just kind of miss those little things.
So that is rather unexpected.
Yeah, that just really surprised me.
Yeah. What did you do that you were most proud of on it?
Made it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty big one. But I mean, you're here, you're talking to us, obviously you're alive and well.
Yeah,
and
I did make it, with all my appendages and everything. Probably what I'm most proud of is just, I never cried. I was pretty proud of that. Even, when I was missing people or hungry and covered in mosquitoes or whatever, I never lost it. I came kind of close to kind of, losing my cool every once in a while, but I knew that if that happened, if I let myself have that moment of weakness and just cry and get it all out or whatever emotion, or even just like a screaming fit, if I let myself crack, it was going to be done. It was all over. There would be no coming back from that. Then it would become a more frequent thing, and I would probably tap out or something. So I never let myself get to that level, because I knew I had to make it all the way through. So I was really proud of that I was able to just keep my shit together as long as I did.
Because a lot of people on the show do lose their shit.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They might regain it for a little while, but yeah, once you've lost it, that's it.
Yeah.
At least in my opinion, I think if that were to happen to me, I probably wouldn't be able to. I would always be going back to that.
So what are the plans for the future? You think they're going to have you on another episode? I think we were joking before the episode about like girl on girl naked survival porn where they're going to drop off two naked girls in the woods. A little
better anyhow, so that might be a really good show.
Yeah. I don't know. That might be boring. It might be too good. They're just sitting around braiding each other's hair.
Maybe. Like,
you know, like, oh, this is easy. And then they've got the two guys over there. They're like half dead. And one's missing a finger.
Like gnawing on the other one's leg.
I'm not dead yet, man. What's the matter with you?
I could so see that. You and Laura. I so see that one coming. Because y'all are the two total badass.
Which one was Laura the
we
brunette?
don't know that yet. We don't know that yet.
Okay, fair enough.
So was Laura the brunette that was with the guy that had the big tattoo on his chest, the kind of heavy-set country?
Yes.
Was he a country and western singer?
Yeah.
Yes.
That was a big survivalist, but wouldn't eat anything weird? Which is the other big thing on the show. Like, what is it with the guys that keep going on the show? They're like, oh, no, I won't eat that. It's like, what do you mean you won't eat that?
Yeah, I had one of those too.
Yeah.
I had to basically twist his arm to get him to eat some raw snails. We didn't have a fire at the time, but we needed to eat, and he didn't want to eat it. So I'm like, dude, like, you're going to be, if you don't eat this, you're a big pussy. And he was like, okay, fine. And he like held his nose, like swallowed. He was like, there, I did it. And he didn't want to drink coconut water because it tasted gross. I'm like, we're on an island in Fiji. You're going to have to get over that. Like, fast.
My God.
Wow.
But he eventually did. He sucked it up and did what he had to do. But he kind of whined about it a little bit first. So.
Yeah. So do you think the producers kind of, I mean, I guess the track record of the minister, except what was he? He was an army sergeant? Or what
EJ.
Yeah. Except him. He was the only one who wasn't like, he was really, he toughed everything out, even when he like shouldn't have with that infection. But that would so be you. But you're like, no, I'm fine. Leave me alone. I don't need antibiotics. Just, let me rub some oxen poo in it or something.
Pretty much, yeah, that'd be me. I'm not going home.
But I wonder if they're kind of setting it up because most of the guys they keep picking out are kind of...
Yeah, I've thought about that.
Are women just that much more of badasses when it comes down to it?
See, I don't know if it's, the women are probably going to hate me, but I don't think it's that the women are that much more badass than the men. I just think that the ones that end up getting picked are, I think, pretty typical of their survival community in general. At least the men, a lot of talk, a lot of boasting, a lot of kind of over talking your abilities. Whereas women, there are probably plenty of very capable, very strong women that could do the same thing, on the show. But the women, it seems to be like just the very essence of how men communicate and how women communicate. Like a badass woman that has it all together and can do all that isn't going to go around bragging about it. She's going to be kind of more humble and a little more reserved, probably right off the get-go. So she's initially not almost going to be seen as bringing as much to the table as these like badass like army guys and all this stuff that are a lot of talk and just really loud about all their supposed experience and skills. So when a guy is just really boasting and getting loud about stuff like that, he almost sets himself up for failure.
Oh yeah, 'cause what was it, the guy that got burnt really bad?
Yeah.
I think he wasn't the worst, but he was one of the really bad ones that like on the way he was like, oh, I've seen combat everywhere and everything else. I was like, this isn't exactly combat, and this doesn't have any lines of logistics or supply or anything else going on here.
Yeah, I think it's just
the guys
was just but I mean, you see that in general because a lot of the types of guys that are getting into this, or into the guns and so on and so forth, they're all kind of egotistical. So it kind of feeds into that. So they always talk more game than what they actually practice. I mean, come on. I mean, how long have we been doing the show? I mean, how often have we run across people that it's all armchair? It's no real life stuff.
Well, that would be you and I. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Hey, I included myself in that, but no, I mean, just mostly kidding. Yeah, no, I mean, having been in and around it, I guess twice now, having left it in my early 20s and then kind of come back to prep and survival and stuff. Now in my late 20s, early 30s, and now into my late 30s, and into my very late 30s, unfortunately, there is always that guy that talks a lot of stuff. There is always that guy, and I guess even, and it doesn't matter what it was in. It doesn't matter if we're talking about bushcraft or we're talking about shooting, I think shooting is probably the worst. There's always that, oh, I can shoot and da 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 da. I mean, we were even talking about one recently with somebody that was like, oh, I won't touch a rifle that's less than an eighth MOA. And I'm like, for what? I mean, I've seen you shoot from a bench. You can't shoot an eighth MOA. I mean, and don't get me, I like the guy, which is why I'm not like calling his name out or anything like that. It's nothing like that, but it's just like, for what? You can't, So yeah, there's a lot of that in the community. I mean, there's a lot of that in the gun community. There's a lot of that in the prepper community. I don't know that I would say it's the rule, but it's definitely, there's a lot of it out there. Yeah. I guess, I guess it depends, like even if you just go onto the different prepper boards, like most of the prepper boards, I guess at least the ones that I've been a member of are usually pretty good. You don't see too much of that. Like our forum is pretty good. You don't, and the people that do that don't last very long on ours. And I think that's probably why you don't see them on many prepper boards. At least none of the ones I hang out, because everybody else is kind of like, yeah, you're full of crap. You're full of crap. You don't really see that on the TSP forum when I used to hang out there a lot. Not on ours. I don't remember what I'm trying to think of some of the other ones, and I just went blank. But it must have been all the beer and pizza.
Yeah, and I'll let me swing this back into PUA. The majority of those type of guys can't handle a woman that's like smarter or better than them.
Yeah.
So if you get into a situation like you were in, all of a sudden you got this like big, strong, actual capable woman with you. You got this big ego. You're just gonna break them. I mean, they're just gonna snap like a twig. I mean, that's pretty common.
Yeah. That usually lends itself to a situation of the person was overcompensating to begin with. But so tell us.
Much is more.
Yeah, it's all about just knowing your own limitations, and maybe some guys just don't know that yet.
Is that what you were trying to say the other day when you were telling me I was extra macho? Or were you just making fun of me? Anyway, I'm just kidding.
I'll hold that for private conversations.
Stop it. Anyway, so tell us about the future for you. What are you going to do with yourself here?
It's still very much up in the air.
Yeah.
I'm in that adaptive mode right now, just kind of being flexible, seeing what comes.
Because you kind of went through a big life change before all of that. I mean, I don't want to get into your personal bitness here or anything, but you did, just for context's sake, you went through a big life change. You made a lot of decisions on different things and different avenues, I guess is an easy way of putting it, that you wanted to take your life with. So, and now you're doing some new stuff. And I mean, not even having anything to do with the TV stuff. You just tell us what's going on with you, lady.
It's all just kind of timed, really neatly with the TV show. And I know it sounds weird. It's like, it's a TV show. It's something that's aired for an hour and then it's gone. But for me, kind of living through that experience, I learned so much about myself, and it just really opened my eyes to just what I'm capable of mentally. And it was kind of a big wake-up call. Like, wow, you just, did this, Yeah,
I mean, that's pretty double tough. 21
really
days.
Did this, so you can pretty much do anything you damn well want to do.
Yeah.
So, back, after I've settled down, kind of gained my weight back and settled back into real life, civilized, society, back working.
I don't know. You just peed in the closet a minute ago.
Hey, I'm just glad there's a door and there's walls, okay? I'm glad that there's no leaves in there. But yeah, just kind of back into normal life, working. My priorities have changed a lot. It's not about it's not about just like work yourself to death anymore for me. I was always just, got to pay your bills on time, and you have to have certain things, and everything has to be a certain way, or you're not successful, and if you're not successful, you're not happy, and da, 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 da. My definition of my own happiness has changed radically after having nothing. And I know it sounds kind of like trite talking about 3 weeks of nothing, when there are people in the world that grow up like that, live their whole lives like that.
Yeah, when you're not used to nothing.
Yeah.
That's
when you're not used to it, having it all just like snatched out, it actually reminded me a lot of, like I mentioned this previously with you guys, Hurricane Ike. A few years ago, just kind of waking up and like, wow, I have no power, no utilities, and the streets are closed, and all this is going on. Just being able to kind of get through things and adapt. you learn something every time that you're pushed outside of your comfort zone. And I was pushed outside of my comfort zone in a huge way. So my priorities completely changed. Now I'm working as little as possible. Mm-hmm. And, you know, still paying my bills. I'm still, you know, a dutiful citizen. And, you know, it's tax time and all of that. You know, it's all taken care of. But it's not all about work. Got to get a promotion. Got to get that raise. You know, I'm doing as little as possible for the maximum benefit. You know, kind of applying some of that survival thinking, maximum amount of calories with least amount of expenditure. It applies in the working world too, for me now. And I'm also going back to school, expanding my mental capacity, finishing out my degree, going into emergency and disaster management.
Very cool.
Yeah,
Very
realizing that I can get stuff done under pressure and in situations that require quick thinking and flexibility and being able to see different options all at once. And why not take that newfound knowledge, that newfound power, I guess, and use it for the greater good.
Yeah, and
Like
you know,
FEMA,
if they come to put us, and if they come to put us in FEMA camps, you'll be like, Aaron, Jason, get out of there.
Yeah,
or
you'll have to
stay right
again.
there. I have a warrant for your two dummies. I get brownie points for bringing y'all in.
Well, maybe not FEMA specifically, but you know, I'll just say the greater good.
Right. No, I mean disaster management in general. I mean, even with FEMA, I mean they do the best they can with the giant bureaucracy and stupidity that is anything government. But I mean that's really neat. I mean I'm super excited for you, and excited to see you do something that you get excited about. I mean we haven't known each other for like the longest time ever. We're not like oldest besties ever, but at the same time I'm like that's really cool because I think that's something you're interested in and passionate about. And like I said, if they come first in the FEMA camps, at least, you know, give us a head start.
Yeah. And I had so much time just to sit and contemplate, like, what the hell am I going to do with my life? That, feeling very secure in my new plan.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was not rushed. It was not a spur of the moment whim. Had lots of time to meditate on that. Yeah.
Well, awesome. And so we're doing this show out of order on purpose so that we can hit it right before your episode comes out. And so again, that was Sunday. What day is that going to be? What's that date?
30th.
The 30th. So Sunday, March 30th, 9 p.m. Central. Miss Alana Barfield, naked and maybe not so afraid.
Naked and just kind of bored.
Just kind of bored.
And the live after show is right after.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Definitely going to be watching that.
Are you? Because it's not, I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. I've listened to you two talk about it, and it's kind of like, I don't know.
To see her live? Oh, yeah, dude.
Well, I want to see her go off on somebody.
I just hope I'm not forced to, like, throw a chair across the
Do it.
studio.
Do it.
See, we're all like, yeah, do it.
Get all Geraldo on their ass.
I'm not going to answer
Break her nose. Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on the show again, and I'm glad to see you back safe and sound. And we'll do it again sometime, maybe next season. And I guess that is kind of the big surprise because I meant to lead up over the last few episodes that this was the season finale. So we will be back in September, and I actually forgot to put the date in front of me. But I wish everybody a happy summer. Enjoy yourselves. Stay safe and sound. And you will hear our voices again in September. Miss Alana, thank you again.
Thank you.
Jason, thank you for another great season.
Same, definitely.
And thank you to all the listeners for a third wonderful season. And we'll see y'all soon for season 4 of In the Rabbit Hole. Stay safe and sound. Get weekly updates about articles, episodes, and special In the Rabbit Hole announcements every Saturday morning by signing up for the newsletter through the website, intherabbithole.com. Help us bring you better information about preparedness. If you have an author, blogger, podcaster, video blogger, or any other person you'd like to hear on the show, we'd love to have them on. Contact the person you'd like to hear on the show and tell them about In the Rabbit Hole Urban Survival Podcast. Tell them to visit intherabbithole.com/guest. Don't wait. Do it today, and let's grow the show together. From the Lone Star State, till next time, stay safe and sound.